I think for a lot of founders and a lot of marketers, they think about creating something like this has to be content, this has to serve a directly attributable goal or some kind of metric, right? And I think when you shift the lens, I'm obviously biased as a rapper, musician.
Yeah.
When you allow more of that art to permeate the creation, what you do is you enable more authenticity and more connection with the audience. And I think it's the same way we get a cold email and there's a specific format. It looks like fucking AI wrote it.
Yeah.
And then we have the spam filter turned on. We're like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to give this time of day. And you see that with the video. It's like you have the specific lower thirds text. They're in a studio with the, versus you have cinematic footage of you going through life, dealing with the challenges, right? And that's a different type of connection you're able to distribute.
For sure. And I think there's part of it that you didn't speak of. If you're able, I mean, I really do view this as like my art, right? Like, and I'm trying, and this is like, I haven't really used AI. I'm going to try to use it like these guys were doing in the story that I told, because I actually think that using it that way allows you to produce better art because it's not making the art for you. It's widening the breadth of what you're putting into the art. But if you view it as art, there is a very internally fulfilling creative thing that is now like a very substantial portion of your job that is important to acknowledge. Like, it's just very different than sitting on Zoom calls and like trying to move an organization forward or close people or whatever. Part of this obligation that you feel is to create something that you view as your art, and you are trying to create great art. It's a wonderful diversity of experience for a professional journey, I think. And I'm glad it's part of mine. I don't know what, like, if I sold these companies, I don't know what would be next, but like, I'm just intrigued by it now that I feel like I at least understand one channel really well. On the way over, I was listening to a podcast about like post-exit life that was on. I got interviewed on MoneyWise, Sam Parr's podcast. So I listened to my episode because I got a bunch of inbound that was like, dude, that was a great episode. And I'm like, really? Like, I want to see how they edit it. And they edit it super well. Like, they nail that show. And then the episode after mine was this girl who's all about like post-exit psychology. And she's like talking about like this crisis of meaning that happens to people, which is kind of an obvious thing. You hear about it, but you give up a lot when you sell a business. And then most people fill it by like doing all this stuff that they couldn't do before, traveling, like whatever else. And then that ends up being a crisis of meaning because you're not giving anything from the world to the world. It's just taking. And like the way that we're creating, it's actually giving people a lot, So like it's impossible to not, when you have people multiple times a day, I'm sure you get this too, like just writing you saying what you're putting out is really helping me.
Yeah.
It's just an unbelievable, it's like it gives you this really good feeling about what you're doing. At least, I don't know how it wouldn't, right? If somebody was just saying, thank you for helping me all the time, right? So that's another benefit of doing it, to the level, it just inspires you to try to be even better.